You have a personal injury client, an injured client that is dependent on pain medicines and suffer from and have been diagnosed with chronic pain. And chronic pain, and I'm not going to give the medical definition, but chronic pain is basically a person that has an injury that is going to result in pain for the rest of their life. Sometimes there are diseases that can cause that, or arthritic conditions that are genetic that can cause that. Sometimes injuries, especially to the spine or certain joints, can cause a permanent injury that is going to cause pain for the rest of their life. So if you have a client that is diagnosed with chronic pain and is under pain management, we have to understand and respect that society doesn't look favorably upon the pain management industry. And I'll use the word industry. There is a cottage industry, if you will, of pain management clinics that are set up. A lot of them deal with chronic pain. And a lot of people get scared away when their clients appear to be dependent, if not addicted, to pain medication or pain management. And if you suffer from chronic pain, it doesn't feel like addiction. It feels like dependency, like we're dependent on air and food and water. We're not addicted, but we're dependent. And I'm not trying to make excuses about substance abuse. That's a very serious topic. But if you have a client that has been diagnosed with chronic pain, you need to know how to talk to a jury about chronic pain. The first time I ever did that, and I had a client I was very concerned about. We had like a very nominal offer because of her chronic pain and the fact that she was dependent on pain medicines. A very nice lady, very conservative, very religious, very devout Christian lady, who wasn't very pleasant, which is not unusual for people like her. She wasn't a pleasant person. And I asked the jurors, I actually told the jurors up front, I said, when I first met my client, and don't be horrified, but I said that when I first met my client, I didn't really care for her much because she was not very emotional, not very articulate, wouldn't describe her pain. And the look on the jurors' faces was they were mortified that I was talking about my client this way. But people that suffer from chronic pain kind of have a distant, indifferent numbness about them. And I was concerned that the jury was not going to like my client because my client wasn't likable in that way that you want clients to be likable. So I asked the jury panel, how many of you have any loved ones or close friends that suffer from chronic pain? And I had 7 hands come up. And I asked those that raised their hand, I don't want any detail, I don't want anything that's going to embarrass you or embarrass anybody, but can you tell me like whether it's a relative or a close relative or a dear friend or just an acquaintance? And I went through and this one young lady, very young lady, her voice was cracking and she said, it's my father. So naturally, she was the one that I was going to explore the issue with, and I asked her, was it from an injury, work injury, car wreck, or was it something else? And she said it was a work injury. And I said, was he different before the injury than he is now? And she said yes. And I asked her how so, and she talked about yard work, playing with the grandkids, horsing around, being fun, being exciting, being the life of the family gatherings, so full of life and entertaining within the family. And that's the way he used to be, and he's not that way anymore. And I asked her if he took pain medicines, if she didn't mind answering that question. She said he does. And I asked her, does he like taking pain medicines? And she said, no, of course not. And I said, well, why do you think, if you have an opinion, why do you think he takes them? And she says, because he either has to be miserable or he has to be kind of dull. And I thanked her for her answer, and I knew it was difficult. She was a little teary-eyed through this. And I said, what a horrible choice to have to make, to be miserable or dull and not being able to interact in the way you're used to. And then I stated to the jury, you see how I might have been a little hard on my client. And so I redeemed myself, but I can assure you the looks of horror on the jury's faces was extreme when I told them up front that when I first met my client, I didn't like her. Do not shy away. Do not be afraid of one of the consequences. If you look at risks of an injury, one of the risks is you might have to take pain medicine. If you take pain medicine, you might become dependent. You become dependent, you might become addicted. Don't be afraid of those things. It's no different than a piece of bone marrow breaking loose from a broken leg bone and getting in the bloodstream and lodging in your lungs and killing you. It is a known risk of an injury. And these issues are no different. Don't shy away from them, and don't be afraid to talk to the jury about it. I appreciate you listening. I hope this has been helpful to somebody. I look forward to talking to you again, and thank you. Whether you have a civil injury case or a criminal defense case, it's an important case. The stakes are high. To your client, it is the most important case on the planet. Are you concerned about your limited jury trial experience? Are you afraid of losing an otherwise just cause? Would you even know where to look for mock trial or co-counsel services? Well, I'm retired Judge Ken Adair, and when I left the bench, I returned to the trenches. I returned to conducting jury trials, which is my passion. Go to Trial.Win to see what I can do for your case.